Hi creators, it's time for a hexagon jacket update. So I have gone through and just pieced together in strips the hexagons, and I've labelled them 1, 2 and 3 at this point because I have pieced them with the kind of sequence of putting them together in mind. So this is the start of the row. Trying not to get too much repetition, trying not to get like matching because they are on the diagonal, so paying attention to that. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm loving the placement, but I'm thinking I'm going to need a lot of hexagons. So this is 11 and it's pretty much the width that I'll be looking for to have some seam allowance, because obviously it's going to need a neck and it's going to need to be open at the front. So next step from here is to sew these strips together, and as I said in the last video, the point of a hexagon goes in the gap between two hexagons, and then it's kind of a bit awkward to demonstrate, but it really works its way around a corner so that when you open it you've sewn to both the top edges so they sit nicely together. So I made, what, 30 approximately hexagons so far, and I've probably only really got 2, 4, 6 inches in the width I'm looking for. So we worked out I'm probably going to need about 500. So I'll update you on that as we go, but I'm just going to bring you in and show you how I stitch them together. I have then my 2 strips of fabric with the edge lined up, so I did line them up 1 and 2, and I'm going to be flipping this one into the middle of this one. So it's really tempting when you first start to just line these 2 up because that's what you did to make the strips, but that won't create the brick that's the hexagon. So you do need to place this in the middle and then you twist so that the middle line is here, because we're going to come up both sides of this. So we're going to be connecting this one and this one. Obviously right sides together, and then aligning the point of the inner hexagon that I traced from the template. And it is helpful to line up the kind of the hexagons in general, coming through the point and making sure you hit the point on the opposite, and then I just take the clips and kind of just stabilize this in a couple of places so that it's now really easy for me to take out the pin and start sewing. So with a knot on one end, thinking about which way I sew, so I'll come in through that point again, making sure I hit the point on both sides. I'm not sure if you can see, there's a very faint green line on this side. And then simply just doing a regular running stitch, keeping the stitches pretty small. And I find if I do this all in one load, I guess, load all the stitches up on the needle at the same time, I get a really nice straight line. There's no variation at all in that line because I'm really just, it's the straightness of the needle really helping to create that straight line. And then just make sure the fabric isn't bunching, and then putting just some anchor stitches into that corner point because you don't want those corners to drift at all. If I just open up this, you see now I've got that brick, so I've got an offset, and eventually I'll come back in here with a half hexagon to even out the square if I need to. But then we're not actually going to tie this thread off because we are going to sew down the second side of the constellations. But we're going to sew it onto the second hexagon. So I'll just put a couple of anchor stitches in, and I find it's easier to do this with it clipped, just because you can really get into that corner just that little bit better, making sure you hit the corner on both sides and trying to make sure that you're not hitting the other fabric yet. We will get there. So just a couple of stitches to make that nice and anchored. And then we're going to switch the orientation from kind of, everything's all fastened up, from here, so going straight and down, to coming straight, but then this one is going to go up, so we're pivoting on that point to come up to match the striped square. Again, a pin to find your points. That one's a little bit off. That's good. Making sure they're nice and flat, and then clipping those together. You can fold the other layers of fabric just to keep them out of the way so you don't accidentally sew them together. Figuring out where you left your needle. Probably unclip that. You can leave the pin in if you're happy to work around it, just so you really do have those points anchored. And just running that stitch down once more. Trying to keep it even so that you have an even stitch on both sides, so you're not kind of heavy on length on one side and light on length on the other side. I'll drop that pin out now before I pin myself. Making sure the fabric doesn't have any wrinkles, and again just put in a couple of extra overlapping stitches in here. And you see we've just sewn that Y seam, and actually now, because I've got the two strips, you can just kind of keep going all the way along without having to worry about tying off your thread at all. We're just going to then kind of go back, pivot again. We're going to go back to the downward orientation with the light aqua on the stripes. that then is my little how-to for this video, and I will be doing a lot of hand sewing, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a project that I can take. I don't have to be at the sewing machine. I can do it anywhere. In front of the TV will be a lot of when this happens, but I also hope to take it with me on some trips around. I've got a few trips lined up in the next few weeks, so I will hopefully bring this project along, because it really does, you know, carry in this little bag. I don't have to take the strips that are already done. I can just make new strips. I know I want them 11 and 12 wide, so I just have to take that many. So stick around for some glimpses into where this jacket takes place, because I am honestly in no rush to finish this project. This will be one of my competition entries for the CWA, so I have 11 months to finish this. Obviously lots of elements have to go into it, lots of hexagons are going to go into it, but I will come back when I have a little bit more of a sizable piece to show you how it looks and to let you know how I'm going.